All right. So I don't know what number this is, but if there's one thing that I've learned um, from just life and my own experiences is that it's always a bad idea to question somebody's transition. Um, because, there's a lot of things. Okay, well, first of all, let me sort of. I think a lot of, especially when it comes to men, let's talk about men from a man's standpoint. A lot of men are very confused when it comes to what exactly a transsexual is. A lot of men have like a sort of fetish, chick with a dick, you know, and a lot of guys just don't sort of, oh, I'm not gonna even say guys, just people in general, like just don't understand that the trans world is very broad. Transgendered is a term that basically describes everything that is gender variant. Anything from a girl wearing boy shoes to like a full post operative transsexual. It's very broad, it's an umbrella term. It can mean pretty much anything. A drag queen is transgendered. Um, there comes like a sort of confusion with crossdresser and transvestite. And from what I've sort of, through my own experience and through my research and everything, discovered is that a crossdresser is somebody that sort of has a fetish. Most crossdressers I know are definitely like you look in their wardrobe and it's not like, normal women's clothing. It's like lingerie or things that are just or very or just or not if it's not lingerie, it's things that are just very like you'd never catch like a normal girl that wasn't in a porn or like wasn't in some weird costume movie wearing these sort of things. Like it's just like things that just aren't real. It's very sort of in your face and like just not typical passable um, you know, dress. A transvestite is, to my understanding, somebody that cross dresses and maybe does not identify as being female, but is passable to a certain extent and enjoys sort of getting mistaken for female. That's what I understand. So they like getting mistaken for being female and sometimes tricking people into thinking they're female. I don't know. I might be wrong about this. That's kind of the point of this video. But, that's my understanding. And a transsexual to me is somebody that is actually going and changing their sex. Like, actually identifies as female, is willing to legally and physically change their body in order to be the gender that they were not technically born in. That's my understanding. Now, a lot of people can look at me and sort of say that I am a cross dresser or a. Well, not look at me, but by definition, a lot of people can say that I am a cross dresser or a transvestite. And, like, that sort of bothers me because I know that's not true. Because I know the reason that I am not on hormones or going further with my transition is just because, let's face it, I'm 19 years old. It's hard. I'm 19 years old. I'm a sophomore going to be a junior in college. Um, there's just like so many more priorities in my life right now than my transition. And also, I have a body that's very feminine and very passable. Um, and I don't see like a lot of people, they feel like they have like this need to be on the hormones. I just don't, you know? I just don't. Like, I know to a certain extent I do, but like, I'm not like so frustrated right now that I'm not on hormones that it drives me insane. Like, I know that maybe in a couple of years I'll feel that way, but now I don't because I know that I passed and I know that, being a chick for me is not that much of an issue. Um, but, some people by definition, in fact, I even got into an argument with some people on a stupid fucking 2-year-old website about this, you know. Because here's my thing: is like I've met a lot of cross dressers, and they live double lives. I used to go to a bunch of different little parties and stuff where there were a bunch of teen girls and trannies and yada yada yada. And I would meet like 56-year-old cross dressers that did this at parties or at certain clubs, but never in front of their families. In fact, they were married, they had kids, they had they had careers that just like, if anyone found out they did this, it wouldn't be a very good idea. Um, they would be in a bad situation. And that's kind of like what made me make my decision so early, because I met those people and I saw how sad it was. Because, I mean, some of these cross dressers, even though they maybe identify themselves as cross dressers, I could tell that they were actually trans. Like, they actually, if they could, if they were in a different situation in their life, they would transition. Um, but because they were where they were, they just couldn't, you know? And that's kind of like where I am right now. It's like, I mean, if I had money and I had time and a place to go and safely transition, I would do it tomorrow. Tomorrow. I mean, and I think that's the difference between someone that identifies themselves as a cross-dresser or a transvestite and someone that identifies themselves as transsexual. Um, and when someone questions my transition and wants to put that label on me as transsexual and not transsexual, as transvestite or cross-dresser, it bothers me because, like I said in my other videos, when I'm not here at home, like I live full time, I'm a chick all the time, 24/7, you know? And to me, you can't call somebody that is full time a cross dresser or a transvestite, because to me, that it's just not true. And, I have a friend who I've always sort of thought was trans that only recently sort of came to this realization, or actually just openly accepted herself as trans. That actually, in a way, sort of um, inspired me to be comfortable in my transition. Um, and she's sort of going through this interesting phase in her life right now. She's sort of like, I don't really know how to say this, but let's just say that I have an easier time with men than she does. I, like, when we go out, like, men will hit on me, but they won't necessarily hit on her. Like, she'll try to hit on them, and they won't really feel it. Like, I've been in plenty of situations where I've had to tell guys after they flirt with me for a little while that, hey, I'm trans. She doesn't necessarily have that issue. Like, I love her to death, but she's just, the situation she's in, like, my genetics just sort of allow me to be a little more passable. Um, and that sucks, but it's kind of, it's reality. And I hate it, but, that's what it is. Um, and, like, I've been sort of struggling because her personality and, like, the way she dresses, to me, isn't the way that someone that is transsexual would dress. It's someone that is maybe a drag queen would dress. Um, it's just very out there and very loud. And she's definitely started changing her style, which I'm glad. But that's people are gonna look at her and say that she's a drag queen, and she hates that. But that's reality. And I've learned, and there's been a lot of times where I've wanted to come to her and be like, okay, why are you identifying as this when you're really this? But I realize that, like, you can't do that because you never know what's going on internally. Because just because someone maybe is cross dresses doesn't mean that they don't have the feelings that a trans person has. Just because someone isn't technically, by definition, one of these things doesn't mean that they're any less transsexual. So, I just wanted to make this video just to say, don't question people's transition, because you never know. You never really know. Just because someone looks a certain way doesn't mean that they are a certain way. So, yeah, I'll end this since we don't have a lot of time, but just wanted to say that. Comment if you will.